Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Department of Cannabis Regulation Cybersecurity Threat Interactive Session with IBM. We are so excited for you all to join us this evening, and we will be hosting this session with our subject matter expert from IBM, and that is Michael Mallory. So we are so excited to have him here with us. And Michael, can we get the slides on for everyone? Thank you. All right, and as those slides are coming up, again, the Department of Cannabis Regulation has officially launched the Business Licensing and Compliance Assistance Program to assist social equity applicants in the city of Los Angeles with obtaining a commercial cannabis license and operating a successful cannabis business. Program highlights include self-directed online education topics related to running a successful cannabis business through our learning management system, live webinars with subject matter experts like this one, and checklists, worksheets, and other management tools that you may use at your convenience. Please visit cannabis.lacity.org for more announcements on our ever-expanding BLC program. And we just want to remind all of our audience members a few housekeeping rules. And that's that attendees will be able to see and hear the panelists, and there will be an open chat box where you can comment in the panels and ask questions and raise your concerns. And we encourage you to use that Q&A box at the bottom pane of your Zoom screen. And this enables us to see what questions you have and queue them up as appropriate throughout the course of our evening here with Michael. And we just want to remind you of a couple disclaimers, and that is that the content was not created from the Department of Cannabis Regulation or the City of Los Angeles, and it is for informational purposes only. And this information is subject to change and does not replace or supersede the Los Angeles Municipal Code, nor constitute legal advice. And you can call 213-978-0738 during business hours, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. to speak to a DCR representative. And without further ado, I'm so excited to bring back to the stage my co-moderator, Mr. Brad Rowe, to introduce our subject matter expert for this evening.
As always, such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Dr. D. This is the last in a long series of events that we've done on cybersecurity, and we saved the best for last. Having Michael Mallory with us to share his experience on cybersecurity is it's just an incredible honor and a great way to finish up this series that we've done. Before I introduce him, I do want to let you know that very shortly we're going to be putting out a series of cybersecurity videos, a curriculum to help you with your Los Angeles cannabis business to prevent any cyber threats or other issues that you might have. So please tune in, get over to the learning management system that the Department of Cannabis Regulation has provided for you. Great resources in there, and we're going to be dropping those videos for you guys in about the next week. So keep an eye out for those. All right. The star of the night is Michael Mallory. He is from IBM. He's the executive cybersecurity advisor for them. He's certified information system security professional. He's a founder and moderator for SECRT and the regional CISO security leader roundtable groups across the United States. There are 1,200 plus security executive members. So keep an eye out for that. That might be something interesting for your companies to be aware of and maybe participate in. That might be something good to bring up and talk to Mr. Mallory about. He's also an author, frequent national public speaker, moderator, FBI InfraGard committee man, NASCIO committee member, and recognized subject matter expert in security and threat intelligence, identity access governance, and authorization. His past consulting roles include lead architect for many of the world's largest authentication and authorization infrastructures, including 2 of the first billion user authentication infrastructures. That blows my mind. He is a champion of regularly scheduled cybersecurity threat simulation, exercise, training, and education, like what we're going to be doing tonight. So without further ado, Michael Mallory, thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Dr. D. So welcome, everyone. We'll talk a little bit about some of the dangerous toys that are out there and how to be careful about them. So there are these things called rubber duckies, and these are the thumb drives, those little drives that you could put into the USB ports. Well, they could certainly contain payloads on them. And just to show you how accessible some of these tools are, you can buy these things on Amazon, on eBay, anywhere. This one actually comes with a guidebook for $100. So it's a how to put a payload on one of those USB thumb drives. And this other one, now this one is a low-tech one without the guidebook, and it's only $16 on sale. So these things are all over the place, and you have to be careful when you find something to put into your computer. Maybe you might want to think twice before doing that. The USB killers, these are very horrifying. So these devices look like a thumb drive, but they have capacitors in them. The whole concept of a capacitor is that basically it could store energy. And these things actually, as soon as you plug them into your computer or the USB port, then it will start bringing that electrical current into this thing, and then it will reverse it and it will fry your computer. In fact, some of these devices, if you keep into your computer for close to 60 seconds, it could actually burst into flame. So these are pretty horrifying that these things are out there. This one, is on Amazon that can be purchased for under $100. These things are, they could be plugged into any USB port, even if you have a laptop or a computer that is disabling that. As long as the electrical current is still going through those devices, then you're vulnerable for that.
What you're talking about right now are events that are going to happen physically. Someone who is in proximity to your devices who can get in there. First of all, what's payload? That was a term that you brought up right in the beginning. And
Sure.
Secondly, where do we see these kinds of things happening, where people are putting these devices into computers? This is an inside job. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, the rumor has it that the Iranian situation, where they had all of their industrial control systems and even their part of their nuclear program, was isolated from the regular network. But from what we understand and have learned later, was that someone took one of those thumb drives, put some malware on that, which that refers to some type of a payload. So something that could be used as soon as that thing plugged in. And what they do, sometimes the bad actors, they'll just throw these things around, and sometimes they'll even put labels on them that might look intriguing. And as soon as you put that into your computer, you're owned. Or if it's a USB killer, as soon as you put that in your computer is destroyed now. So it doesn't have to be an inside job, because they could be just dropping these things right in the parking lot of your organization or your businesses. And
Hoping someone will pick it up and use it.
Exactly. Yes. And that's what typically happens. In fact, that's what they believe happened in Iran, where even though this secured environment was petitioned, someone picked up that device at some point and plugged that into the secured environment. And that's how that whole environment was compromised. What they were able to do was take over those industrial control systems, and they speeded up the turbines to some unsafe condition where it just destroyed those turbines on those industrial control systems. This one that we're looking at right now is an access point. They're called pineapples sometimes. If you look at a couple of these, it kind of looks like a pineapple, and that's why they've been termed pineapples. This is like an access point, like a wireless router that you might have in your homes or your businesses. The only thing about these wireless access point pineapples are that these are not what people think they are. So if someone is coming to one of your businesses and you have Wi-Fi set up, well, they think that they're connecting to that, but it might be a store next door to your storefront, or it could be someone in their vehicle that's nearby that has one of these pineapples. When these folks connect to the wireless network that they think that they're connecting to, they're unfortunately connecting to one of these intermediary systems. And they're getting, as far as they're aware, they're connecting to, the persons are connecting to Starbucks or, or any Wi-Fi, but they're not. They're connecting to these intermediary systems, and they launch a man-in-the-middle attack. What they're able to do is snoop all of the information that's going through, and that might be your passwords or your credentials or any information, and they can filter that and steal that information. And it's very easy to happen. So these are out there. Here we're looking at these things on sale on Amazon and everywhere else for between $70 and maybe even as low as $40.
These are not generally targeted attacks. They're casting a net, hoping someone's going to jump in and share their information.
Exactly. Gotcha. Exactly. Now ATM machines, we all use them. Well, on sale at Amazon, eBay, anywhere on the internet, you can find these ATM skimmers. And they have them for all different types. This one, we've seen ATMs with these green circular things where you put your card in. This thing is about an eighth of an inch, and it's stuck on top of the card reader. So it's just sitting right in front of it. You wouldn't even know it's on there. They used to be kind of flimsy, but now the adhesives are pretty strong. And you'll be putting your credit card or your debit card into the machine, and it's sliding through this intermediary faceplate before it goes into the actual ATM, and it's launching a man-in-the-middle attack, and it's able to actually siphon your PIN and all of your information on there. I've talked to some folks from the FBI, and you're not really even going to know that these things are on there. You might be able to see it, that maybe something looks a little unusual, but for the most part, you're probably not even going to be aware that this thing is sitting securely right on top of the card reader that you were intending. And because you're still making your transaction, it's just somebody's in the middle of you and that machine. And the FBI folks said you're probably best off using ATM machines that are in more public areas where it's a little more difficult for someone to put one of these things onto the system. And these things are communicating to the folks that are nearby, and they're, siphoning all of your pins and everything. We're always looking for chargers. If you're like me, you're always looking for a charger around your house and all. Well, these chargers could actually have the malware baked right into the rubber molding on these things. And so next time you see one of these cords maybe laying around and you don't remember that it's yours or where it came from, don't be happy that you just found one of these things, because it actually could be stealing all of the information or putting some malware onto your cell phones. That again,
so can
capturing.
I have to ask just a technical question, because first of all, just the last two things, the ATM thing and now this thing, because I have to admit, I have gotten quite excited when I found these things lying around. How is this cord putting malware into my phone? What's happening? What is it doing?
Well, you're right in the molded areas. It doesn't even have to be on that electrical portion. They could just put the the bad information, you'd have to actually take a razor blade and open that up, because you can buy these things the same way that those thumb drives have kind of payloads or malware that's placed onto those thumb drives that we were just talking about. Well, they could be placed inside of the actual rubber. There'll be some circuitry that is not really intended for just charging, but it will just be right in the molded plastic. And these things are on sale. I mean, these bad actors can buy these things, right on the internet.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. All right. You've got our attention.
So let's talk about some passwords now. So a password is something that I know. It's one of a series of a number of different aspects for authentication. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the other ones, but passwords are something that you know, and hopefully you're not writing these things down. Well, let's talk about how those passwords are stored. So passwords in most of the systems out there are encrypted in a one-way hash, it's called. So they encrypt the password. So you're not really seeing, if I use the password of password 123, for an example, it's not stored in the computer as password 123. It might be stored as P97EQJ45, something like that. It will be in an encrypted value. If I create the password of password 123 into a system, and let's say that it encrypts it as 123J5. If you on your system create the same password, you don't know who I am. We have nothing to do with one another, but you, by some chance, created the same password of password 123. It's going to create that same encryption value of 123JQ or whatever I said the first time. So it will encrypt it in the same one-way hash. You folks probably may not remember some file sharing sites like Napster and all. These were like the first generation music sharing sites and all, where people had songs that they purchased and, or obtained, and they were putting them on these systems where other people could just share music and take them and not pay any royalties to anyone. Well, there's these password sharing file systems out in the internet now too. So if I know that password 123 equates to 123EQ, I might put that into a password repository and share that with the world and say, hey, if anyone ever hacks into a system and you download all of the encrypted passwords, look for 123EQ, because I know what that means. That means password 123. So they're sharing password. You might think that you have a wonderful password. You were so creative in creating that, but that password may be known in one of those repositories. And when you think about, all the systems that are broken into, and, that's the first thing they go for is those encrypted password files that have, all the gobbledygook in there. But there's systems out there that will look for, so next time Verizon or Comcast or Google gets broken into and they steal all of the user IDs and the password files, the first thing they're doing is they're taking a look and they're running analytics on there to see if it's any of the known encryption values that are existing, and then you're owned. Now, think about it. If you use the same password more than once on different systems, well, guess what these bad actors are going to do? As soon as they know your user ID or who you are, they're going to go to every system that you're associated with, and they're going to use, and they're not doing this manually. These are all tools that are all automated tools. They're going to be looking for anywhere else that you might have used that password. So you might say, well, so far, so what? They got into my Gmail account or my AOL email. Anybody's still using AOL? I think some people still are. So they're going to check that password on everything else and see. And also, since then now they're in your email, they can reset the password because that password is going to come back to your email and so forth. So always use different passwords. Use a password vault. There's a site out there called informationisbeautiful.net. You might use this for some of your businesses. It has all kinds of analytics. So if you're in a dog breeding club, you can get all kinds of statistics on dog breeding and all. Well, there's all statistics collected on the world's largest data breaches. So we could look at all of these different breaches that are all over the place, and I redacted a lot of the information. I didn't want to embarrass anyone if some of these organizations might be in the audience. So I took that out. But I mean, if you go there, you'll see informationisbeautiful.net, and it'll actually tell you about all of the different breaches. Here is another site that you can all go to, and the link is up on the top. Have I been pwned, as in owned, or with a P might be part of password, but it's haveibeenpwned.com. So it's pronounced pwned. And you put in your email address. What it will do is it's going to be nice enough to tell you all of the places that your email address was stolen. Maybe not all of them, but certainly it'll shock you on all of the sites that your credentials have been stolen. So it will show you the site, when it was compromised, and this is a reason why you want to change your password on a regular basis, because basically they might have that password that's encrypted, but guess what they're going to do? They're going to try to see if your password was used anywhere else. And even if you had something creative, like I said earlier, like it's a nice sunny day. Maybe I have a nice sentence. It's a nice sunny day. Do you think you might be the only person that has a password in the world? It's a nice sunny day. Chances are not. And chances are maybe someone, maybe they even had systems that put that nice sentence in there to try to see what that encryption value is and sharing that out in the world.
So Delara just put the website https:// have I been pwned into the chat. You guys should go in right now and check it out. I actually just did it again. It's a little disturbing.
Yes.
Michael, one of the other things when we were talking about this last week was you said, and I was like, I didn't sign up for something on IMGUR, so, and you told me, unless you're paying for the service, you are the product.
Yes.
So will you tell the audience a little bit about what that means?
Yeah. So
you sign up for free services, your data is the product being sold, right? Am I right?
When you sign up for something for free and you're not paying for it, if you read the fine print, basically they're giving you access because you're the product for sale. Somebody wants to buy whatever information you just provided to whoever's giving you something for free. So they may be providing your email address, they may be providing your home phone number, they may be providing anything. So yeah, if you're not paying for a product, you are the product.
Oh man.
And
all right.
On the password stuff, so remember we said password is something that I know. Other ways of logging in or authenticating to different systems or environments are to either something I know, which is a password, or something I am. That would be some biometrics. That could be your fingerprint, your eye retina, or your iris. Could be your facial recognition. That's something you are. And then something I have might be some type of a key, or some type of maybe a credit card, or some kind of an ATM card is something that I have. or, sometimes you might have a key fob or something to get into a building that you have to wave in front of something. So those are the different factors. Now, there's a term called multi-factor authentication, and everyone here should be using multi-factor authentication. What that is that you're not only putting in your password, or you're not only putting in one of these options, something I know, something I am, or something I have. It's going to prompt me for more than one item. So that way, that fob that we were talking about, a lot of schools use that. My wife used to work in a school system, and she had that on a keychain, and she'd wave that and it would open up the door for her into the school. Well, if she lost that, and if someone, bad actor, got hold of that before she had an opportunity to either know that she lost it or report that it was lost, then someone could gain access into that building. Well, multi-factor authentication would be that somebody needed to have that fob and also a facial recognition at the door, or put a password in besides that. So it's two-factor. For your banks, all of your banks should be providing now some means. You have to opt in maybe, but you do want that. So that way, if somebody does steal your password, because we told you how easy it is for someone to identify your password, because they're sharing all kinds of lists of creative passwords with everyone out in the world. So password by itself is not good enough. You should have some other means as well as the password. So maybe it's a fingerprint and the password, or maybe it's the text message that comes to your phone. Be careful about the text messages also, because your cell phones could be compromised. It's very easy for the phones to be compromised where someone is intercepting your text messages. So your best bet, they sell applications that you can put inside of your cell phone, that the message will go to this authenticator application on your phone. So that way, if somebody is actually intercepting your text messages, which is pretty easy to do, they found a couple of folks at some of the carriers that weren't on their top game, where some people were calling into the carriers and saying, "Hey, I'm Mike Mallory, and I'm just changing phones, and here's my private code on my phone." It's called the ESIDN number, like a hardware address that's unique to your cell phone. So if they know that number somehow, maybe because it was on the box that was shipped with your phone or whatever, but they can call the carrier and say, "Hey, here's my I'm Mike Mallory, and here's my EISDN number. I'm transferring phones. Here, route my all of my stuff over to this new cell phone." And now all of your text messages would be intercepted by these bad actors. Now, some of them were doing that intentionally and being paid, and I think some of those folks got in some big trouble. I don't know if they're in jail or not, but some people were doing it intentionally and selling, for a price doing that. So it's easy to happen.
Wait, Michael, before you advance to this slide about locking down your credit, I just want to take a step back. So you're talking about these authentication tools, including biorecognition. So I'm wondering, can you just tell us a little bit more about facial and other biorecognition tools and how they work and how they also create vulnerabilities? Because it just seems as if you can be pwned, if your passwords and accounts can be compromised, if your text messages can be if someone can intercept those text messages, then it seems as though that same biometric and facial recognition software on your phone can also become compromised or put onto some kind of database, and somehow your identity recognition tools, recognition, products, whatever have you, characteristics can be compromised also. And I don't know what the capabilities are, but I would worry a little bit more about someone being able to get a hold of my fingerprint or, scan my eye or, my face than, a password, which I can more easily and readily change and obviously update, or email address.
Those systems, every system can be compromised. So I think some of the early generation of the iPhones, I don't know if if they're still so vulnerable, but yeah, you could put some Scotch tape or something and capture a fingerprint, and you were able to put that tape on the iPhone, and actually it would think that it was someone else's fingerprint. So that is another reason for the multi-factor authentication, because you shouldn't just trust one means in. So if you had required both fingerprint and your password, well, then it makes it a little more challenging for the bad actors to go after someone, because they're going to need both pieces. That would be more difficult for someone, someone that I never met before, that might have learned my password on one particular system, because I would never use the same password twice, and to also go after me for my fingerprint. I mean, it's still certainly doable, but it certainly makes it more challenging. And plus the fact, if I'm changing my password on a regular basis, which we all should be doing, and a way to do that effectively is to use a password vault. So a password manager. These are out there now. Apple has one. You can buy them. Some of them are for free, but you'll learn pretty quickly that the ones for free are not going to be good enough, because you want it to synchronize between your iPhone, your cell phone, and your laptop or your desktop computers. So you're probably going to want to pay for one, but you can get family versions. So the one that I use, I get a family license for, I think it's like something like $48 a year, and I can have my whole family that actually have their own password vaults. So you can put that in. It's highly secured. It's all encrypted, and I store all of my passwords in this one secured password vault. So I don't even know what my Amazon password is or my Gmail password is, because I change them regularly, and I can put anything that I wish in that thing, and I can make it nice and long, because I never have to remember it. I just have to remember my one master password to get me into the vault, and I can feed it into those systems, or I can copy and paste them into the system when I'm logging in, which is great. I can put my pins in there. So in fact, where we're going right now on these credit reporting, well, I have a friend of mine with a manager in consumer affairs, and she told me that there's a big problem with the identities being stolen on children. And now so children, they were stealing the birth date and the social security numbers. Now, who would even know that those identities were stolen for those children? Because nobody's, parents are not really doing anything with the social security numbers yet for the children. And these people were not even aware of that until they were applying for student loans. The recommendation was to even go to your children and lock down their credit reporting as well.
How do you do that? How do you lock your credit report down?
Yep. So all those three links that are there to opt in and say, I want to password protect my any time that I want credit reporting, then I will unlock it. So I want it locked now.
Yeah, and the slide is missing Equifax. It looks like we have TransUnion on there twice.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So those are the. Do you need to go to all three, or if you just go to one?
Yes, you have to go to each of them individually. What you could do is you could just do a Google search and just say the top credit reporting sites, and you'll go to each one. But I will tell you, or I will recommend that before you do that, get yourself a password vault, because at some point, when you buy a house or a business or car or anything, or lease a car, at some point you're going to want to unlock that, because you do want that enabled for when you want it. So if you can't remember what your password was, you're going to be in a whole lot of problem in trying to unlock that, and that delay might be the difference between you buying a house or not buying a house, or getting that loan for your car or not. So make sure you have some secured way of retaining the PIN or the password that they provide you on those sites.
It's okay. You don't need credit to buy a house these days. You just have, you have to have 20,000 cash over asking for everything. Don't worry about
That's
it.
right. Yeah. It's a lot more than that in New Jersey. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, this is very helpful, Michael. I think I'm appropriately concerned about a lot of things that I hadn't really given enough thought to clearly. What could you say specifically to some of these smaller business owners that are, people are applying for cannabis business licenses, or they've recently acquired a license, or people who are, job seekers in the area and want to be helpful and knowledgeable about what's going on?
Yes.
We're talking about a highly regulated industry. There's a fair amount of, I would say, important, sensitive personal information. People's, if they're shopping and using cannabis products or other things that maybe they don't want public. And then, of course, all these companies are operating at cross purposes with federal authorities, right? So
Yes.
there's a lot of sort of sensitive stuff going on. What can you say to these small business people about, we talk about, what can I do on Monday? How can I need to change things out? This guy from IBM kind of freaked me out a little bit last week. What can I change on Monday? What would you tell these guys to come in and do for a small startup operation, just to kind of top level secure things down? Is you start out with a talk with the staff, or what do you do?
So what you're looking at right now, as a matter of fact, is a search engine, Census.io, and there's also Shodan.io. These are the Google for hackers. And what I would say is, don't think that someone is not targeting you because you're just a small little shop or anything. No one is seeking you out individually, more than likely. What you're in a broadcast storm, and basically what we're looking at right now are these Google searches, but they're not Google, and they can actually show the software that you're running, the versions, if you're unpatched, and so forth. So, and the automated tools are doing this. This isn't someone in their garage probably hunting you out individually. It's just, if you're in the broadcast path and you have an unpatched system, then you're going to be owned. So what you need to be doing is be conscious that there's no security in obscurity. You're out there. So you need to be patching your systems. So on your systems, when it says there's an update on your phone, are you doing that? Are you doing it right away? Do it right away every time it comes up. On your computers, your work computers, make sure that you're applying all of the latest patches on those systems. Otherwise, these search engines will find you and as being not patched, and there'll be automated tools that are going to own you and are going to go into your databases and either louse you up or steal all of your information.
So first of all, what is how would I patch my system? And just me and my wife and my four friends here, my neighbor, we're running a small shop here. Who's in charge of patching this thing up? Who's supposed to do it?
Well, on your computers, you should be getting something from Microsoft if you're running Microsoft Windows every so often, and it'll say there's an update, and do you want to receive it? Or or you might have to turn that on your computer if it's not on. So you certainly want to, whenever it comes your way. On your cell phones, you should be getting notifications as well. I hope you've seen that, Brad, right? Don't admit if you haven't, because everybody will be targeting you. But I'm sure on your iPhone, every
Yes.
so often it'll say that there's an update, another iOS update or something like that. Do that on your routers. Some of the service providers, like a Verizon or so, I think they automatically update the firmware on the routers. I don't know if that's the case on Comcast and some of the other providers. So you might have to periodically take a look and just see if the firmware is updated. But generally, there'll be instructions on how to do that. There's YouTubes on all of that stuff as well. But yeah, you want to do that for your wireless routers. Your computers are going to
Awesome.
get that
Thank
from
you.
Microsoft. If you're running Apple devices, I guess Apple will provide those as well.
I just want a time check. We're at about 18 minutes left, and we got to make sure to get out on time. And I just want to make sure you cover everything you need. And we also have a minute to open it up to anyone who wants to ask a couple of questions at the end as well.
Yep. So the Internet of Things, those are all over the place too. So your smart TVs, your smart garage door openers, your thermostats. You know, again, my friend from Consumer Affairs told me that there's a lot of incidents for during divorces, and where the spouses, usually there's one of the partners are more technically savvy than the other, and one of them is controlling all of the systems in their households. I don't know. Think about that in your own households. Are you the one that knows more than your partner? And so now what they're doing during these divorces, they're leveraging these Internet of Things, and they're actually they're doing all kinds of things against their partners that they're going into their relationship that's being dissolved. So what they might be doing is changing the passwords, and their spouses no longer have access to any of the systems. Or they might be turning things on, turning the oven on in the middle of the night, turning the TVs on, the stereos on in the middle of the night, unlocking their doors. Maybe they're going for child custody, and now they're showing the police officers that the door is unlocked all the time, and it's an unfit parent because they're never locking the doors. All kinds of things they can do. Or just drive someone insane by turning on televisions in the middle of the night and so forth, that they think there might be intruders in the house. So the Internet of Things are very scary right now, and if you think about that, are you more savvy than your partners? So just think about how, or think about how vulnerable you might be if your partner is the more technically savvy person.
Good advice. Forget to lock the door. I can blame it on someone else then. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So any questions out there? Oh, by the way, the average breach was $4 million internationally. In the US, it was $9 million per incident for an enterprise that was getting hacked. And your private credentials that we were just talking about is being sold on the internet for about $180 per individuals. So your healthcare.
108. You have a number. It's $180 for a person's identity.
Yeah, that's what it's on sale for about.
No kidding. Unbelievable. So obviously there is some sort of value to getting all that information.
Yeah.
Well, we would ask our audience members to please share your questions in the chat or in the Q&A area if you want. Michael, this is a great presentation, and you really covered a lot here in a short amount of time. And Laura had some really nice questions as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions that you have. I'll try my best to answer them.
Delara brought up a question here about delivery services using text-based apps for age verification, personal information, credit card information. How can those technologies be compromised?
Email attachments, don't open them. Just tell folks, don't send me an email attachment. Just, put it in the message, let me see the text. Don't click on anything because you don't know what it might have. If you just click on that thing, you might be owned. It's that easy. One click and you could be owned.
So Michael, if I could just jump in here and maybe offer some clarification. Some of our owner operators and applicants out here may be using applications that use text messaging. So you text the customer to, get a picture of their ID card. You text the customer maybe to get their credit card information or some other personal information, their address, et cetera. And the app is theoretically supposed to be managing that text messaging, and then I'm assuming also hosting that data. What might be the possibilities for compromises? I know earlier you were talking about how text messages could be compromised, but what might be something an owner operator or an applicant may should worry about when using text message based applications?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of applications that are using text messages to actually solicit credit card information and all. I think what they should be doing is providing maybe a link to something where they can log in securely into the environment and provide that information in a secure environment, and not maybe just a one-way text message to the folks and say, go on the assumption that someone is reading the text message. So think about how you could structure that conversation, knowing that someone's reading something as if it was on a postcard, and say, you need to do this, that, and the other thing. And if the bad actors were reading that as well, that maybe they weren't able to do all of the things that you're telling them to do. If there's some means of doing that, if that makes any sense to you.
Yes, and what I'm hearing, Michael, from you is just to encourage those owner operators and applicants out there to just shy away from these kinds of technologies that leave them open to these potential
Absolutely.
vulnerabilities and compromises. So to stay away from applications or vendors that are relying on text messaging and not some other secure web-based platform
Exactly.
or app-based platform to secure that information, such that folks are not communicating via text, and then that owner operator or applicant, they're left for some compromise happens or text messages are intercepted, and then there's all this they're liable to this private and confidential information being leaked.
Exactly.
That's what I'm hearing, to just shy away
exactly.
from those sorts of
25 years
vendors.
ago, maybe 30 years ago, we used to tell everyone email is like a postcard. Think of it that everyone is reading that email message along the way. Now you could probably include text messaging as well.
So it seems really challenging to have, a lot of business gets done over email, that sort of back and forth, and attachments, whether you're using PDFs or Word files or PowerPoints or whatever you're doing. And in the absence of that, sometimes we'll use links connecting us into Box or a Dropbox or some other sort of server. Where do you suggest, what's the hierarchy of security? I mean, if you have to exchange sensitive information, and we do with our accountants or with our attorneys or with our clients, what is the sort of the best envelope to deliver them in?
Well, there are some secured means. So there's some secured email frameworks that organizations can adopt, and then that way at least the message is in an encrypted delivery in there. There you could also provide some of your clients access to your system So they're logging in and they're providing their information within your system. Those are some of the techniques that you can use.
Great, thank you. And what is zero trust as a mentality and
Yes.
as a product? You've given me a lot of reason to have zero trust of anyone or anything.
Yes.
And by the way, who do you trust? Do you trust anyone in the company, outside the company?
No, you know what? Let me tell you a couple of stories. We were shopping for something, and I said, hey, let's look at maybe something used on Facebook Marketplace. And my wife went there and she said, hey, Costco has a set for I don't know, for a couple of $100. And we were looking, at much higher than that for like some kind of patio something or other. And I said, well, go get it, So when she started going on there, and I said, wait a minute, wait. Are you sure you were on Costco? And she said, yeah, look, and it said Costco right on there. But the link wasn't Costco. When we looked at it, I said, no, that's not Costco. That's someone impersonating Costco. And if we would have put our user ID and password or the credit card information, that would have been owned. So it's that easy to. So zero trust is the concept where there's no trusted environment any longer. We used to call it least privilege. Everyone should have the minimal access. So even in your own organizations, everyone should have their own user ID and password, never shared. So at least you can identify who did what and when for any type of auditory requirement down the road or forensic. And everyone should have the minimal access unless they need something more. That pretty much seems very logical. Well, that was the concept in the old days. There's virtual private networks as well that you can get from your service providers, Comcast, Verizon, and all, and third-party VPNs, virtual private networks, they're called. So what they're doing is they're encrypting your communication to whoever you're talking to. So that way, if you're under that man in the middle attack that we talked about earlier on, where somebody's intercepting, all they're going to see is gobbledygook because it's an encrypted pipe. What you're able to do is start looking at some of those technologies that you can incorporate in your organizations. You're going to have to probably need to talk to some folks. I would think like some of these user groups, like Brad had mentioned earlier on that I'm chair of this security leaders roundtable club of we're approaching close to 1,300 members now, and there's a California chapter. These are good forums where people, they're Chatham House rules. So what's said there stays there because everyone kind of knows each other, and everybody introduces themselves before we get going in conversation, and people will share, some of their things that got them, and or somebody tried to get them some way, and how they circumvented that. So think about, collaborating with other business owners, other folks, other friends of yours, start talking to people about, password vaults. Hey, are you using a password vault? Start sharing that, collaborate.
Thank you, Michael. And we just want to, again, thank you so much for all of the insight that you have shared with us this evening. Again, Michael Mallory of IBM, we just thank him again. And just to close, as we wrap up in these last few minutes, if you have taken nothing else from this spring series, we want to close with a few things that you can do in your business right now. And that is first, multi-factor authentication. If you do not have MFA, please get it today. You can use different multi-factor authentication apps such as Duo, Google, or Microsoft, and there are others
Or
out
IBM.
there, or IBM, and use that multi-factor authenticator. Next, talk to your employees about cybersecurity. Just begin to get them aware about the different vulnerabilities that are out there, and just start having these conversations so folks know. And if you need some tools, go on the DCR BLC website. We have those tools, those checklists. videos that you can watch, other webinars if you have missed our last few over the spring series, and you can learn more about what you can implement in your business. We have checklists, everything is ready to go for you. Next, log into these different websites that we have shared with you all today. Learn if your credentials have been compromised in any way, and if they have, change them. And the last thing, do not use the same password. Do not use the same password. I'm going to say it one more time. Do not use the same password. And matter of fact, as Michael was saying, now he's at IBM. He doesn't even know his own Amazon password. And that is because he is using a password vault. And so we cannot preach that message enough of using a password vault. And we have again given you, and we know that DCR is not, there's a whole disclaimer in here. They're not endorsing products, etc. But we have a whole list of products you all can use to incorporate that password vault into your business and into your daily practice. Again, we want to thank you. We want to encourage you to continue to use the Business Licensing and Compliance Assistance Programming from the Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation. And again, we want to thank you, Michael Mallory, for being here with us this evening. We want to thank all of you for participating, asking these questions in the chat. And we want to thank those who are watching the replay. Thank you. And stay tuned for more programming, and check out cannabis.lacity.org. Thank you.